I lived my entire life in a place that creates illusions.
Lillian.
These guys from the EPK, they're here. They just need 2 minutes.
Okay, all right.
49 years, 206 plays. How do you keep it from getting old?
Well, it's not old for the audience, is it?
Hey, Lillian. The show's just starting.
When you were a kid, your mom was always in the theater. How did that work?
My mother, the theater. They were inseparable. And there really wasn't room for anything else.
Fast, fast, let's find our places. Formation looks beautiful, nice and tight. Cue Lillian.
Because I'm afraid of the... I'm so sorry. I'll get it.
Okay, great.
It's okay.
Reset, everyone.
This play is going to open on the 21st. And she's still not there.
David tells me you're having some trouble.
Is that what he told you? Without Lillian Hall, we are in trouble. What's going to happen to me?
Sleep disorder? Cognitive decline? Visual hallucinations?
That seemed very real.
Yes.
Do you think art transcends life? She's struggling.
Hey, Lillian.
What? We have to talk about the possibility of releasing her.
She's the first lady of the American theater. I need her for this.
For Christ's sake, this is your life.
The play is my life. And no one is going to take that from me.
The Lillian Hall I know. No play has ever been written that could defeat her.
I am your daughter. Why didn't you tell me? All I wanted was to be seen.
Lillian?
When I'm gone, will you remind me who I was?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Screen Space. He's one of America's great wordsmiths, a playwright, a script writer, and occasionally, as in the case of his new film, The Great Lillian Hall, a wonderful director. Welcome to Screen Space, Michael Cristofer.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon. Good to be here.
It's so lovely to talk to you. Why haven't you directed more films? Before we get into the meat of this interview, it's been a while since Original Sin.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
Is there much to talk about there, or shall we just move on?
We can. I actually started directing because I was frustrated as a screenwriter. I was doing very well as a screenwriter, but you get to a point, and even though I worked with really wonderful directors, Brian De Palma, and your Australian fellow with the Mad Max pictures.
Mr. Miller, yes, I'll get to that soon, yeah.
Yeah, Miller. No, it was a frustrating experience, not wanting to be in control of your own work. And so I did it. I did it once and did a film called GIA with introducing Angelina Jolie.
Yes.
And then it just occasionally sort of bit my ass that I wanted to do it again. And then when that happened, I did it. And I spend more time writing than I do directing.
Yeah, of course. Let's talk about The Great Lillian Hall. As the young video producer says in the film, they don't make them like that anymore. You've written for, worked with some of the greatest actresses of their generations. What is unique about Jessica Lange?
Well, Jessica and I met almost 35 years ago, doing one of the worst pictures ever made. But it was me, it was Jessica Lange, it was Gwyneth Paltrow. You sort of bond more strongly on bad pictures than you do on good pictures.
Well, you made no friends on this one because this is one of your best, so it must have been a terrible experience.
This was a just dreadful experience. Yeah. So Jessica and I wanted to work together again forever, but we remained friends and it just never came up. But then when this material came by, it seemed really obvious because she's at a point in her career. I don't know how many more pictures she's going to do. This might be her last one, but it's the story about an actress. It's the story about an actress who works primarily in the theater. It's a kind of a Valentine to the theater and to people who work in the theater and those of us who started in the theater. So I took it to her and she responded immediately and wanted to do it.
It's an extraordinary performance from her in this. It's extraordinary performance from the whole cast. The film is filmed. It's filled with beautiful scenes. One of the most beautiful is that shared moment of tenderness between Jessica and Pierce Brosnan on the balconies. That very age appropriate tenderness. Your relationship with actors is clearly profound in many regards. They like working with you. There's good performances certainly in this film. What was the overall production like for you?
It was really, when you get actors of this caliber, and I had worked on the script for so long, I've discovered actually on this picture I realized because of the quality of the actors, I realized that I do most of my directing in the writing of the script, so that almost, and I've read about other people like Steven Soderbergh and some other really fine directors who do the same thing. The big lesson I learned about acting was years and years and years ago. I was like 19, 20 years old when I was an actor in New York City. I had a meeting with Jose Quintero. Jose Quintero, you may not know, was one of the prime creators of off-Broadway theater in New York in the 50s and 60s. Wow. He directed all the O'Neill plays, the Tennessee Williams plays with Jason Robards and Colleen Dewhurst and George C. Scott and Rip Torn. He did all those little productions in little basements and created off-Broadway. So I had a meeting with him once, and he had just directed Colleen Dewhurst and Jason Robards, and I said, how do you direct actors like that? I mean, what do you do when you have an actor of that? He said, oh my dear, he was Panamanian and gay and wonderful, and he said, oh my dear, all you do is you create a space around them, a vacuum, and they fill it. He said, and then he said, all you do, you get out of the way.
That's wonderful advice. And
it was great advice.
Yeah.
Advice.
And clearly your actors enjoyed working in this space. It's the performances they give us some of the best of their careers. I want to touch on Lillian's determination to see the production through to opening night despite her affliction. It reminded me of another Jessica Lange film, All That Jazz. Not that she's got the self-destructive path for this, but it's that drive to get the show done. The play must go on. What do you understand of that mindset? Were you ever in that sort of headspace that where you were driven in one of your productions to the point of impacting you beyond the theater or beyond the set?
Yeah, I do remember once as an actor, when they used to hire me to do extreme parts all the time in the theater. If there was somebody who was, knocking themselves silly or screaming their guts out or doing, they just go to me and they would hire me and I would do this part. But I did, it happens, The thing about acting is, you can intellectualize it. You can say, well, I was doing this in that part. I was pretending to be psychotic. I was pretending to be this or that. But the thing is that your body doesn't know you're kidding. Your mind knows you're playing a game, and you can intellectualize what you've done for the day. But your body remembers it as a real sort of experience, because it doesn't have the brains to say, oh no, this is fake. And it isn't fake when you really do it. Jessica's that kind of actor. It's just comes from such a deep place. It happened to me once on stage. I was on stage in some play where I was going crazy and taking my clothes off and every other thing, and I suddenly separated from myself. I was on the stage doing what I was doing, but I was also sort of up on top of the proscenium, sort of looking down at myself, watching myself do this ridiculous kind of thing that I was involved in. And it was the beginning of therapy for me. So that's what it happened.
Wow, this is like a fascinating night at the theater. It really does.
But you do get through it. You have to get through it, and you do get through it. And it also is, for me, actors, it's an act of courage. It's really an act of courage to go out there in front of an audience and do the work. And there's the accolade, there's the audience loving you or not loving you, but the relationship. But it is an act of courage. And when I was pitching this film to get the money for it, which is probably now 90% of the job for this kind of movie, I said to them, it came out of my mouth. They were worried about, this being a soft film or this film, and it was sad. And the original script, I have to say, was a lot sadder than what I did with it. But I said to them, look, I want to make the masterpiece theater version of Rocky.
They should have done that on the poster. That would look great on the poster. Yeah, there's your ticket seller.
It did get me the money, I have to say.
That's
it did
plus.
Get me the money. But it's true, because I wanted to do, in the face of what's happening to her, in the face of what's happening to all of us. I mean, nobody gets out alive, right? Something is going to happen to every one of us. And it's how we face that fact, what we do in the face of that fact. Do we keep going? Do we keep fighting to be ourselves, to maintain who we are through whatever terrible thing is happening to us? That's the courage of being a human being to me.
Well, let's drill down on the terrible affliction of dementia that she has in the film. You don't skimp on showing the horrible sides of it, of course, but you counter with these moments in which Lillian finds great solace in her hallucinations. What was key to you to be faithful to sufferers of dementia?
Well, I think what I just said was because, first of all, there wasn't anybody on the film, or anybody who I don't speak to about the film one way or another, that's since we've done it, who hasn't in some way been touched by this terrible disease in all its various forms, you know? And what we wanted to do, and Jessica and I talked about at length, was, and as we manipulated the script, I mean, in the original script, the opening night of the Cherry Orchard play happened in the middle of the movie. And then the rest of the movie was this slow decline into greater and greater and greater dementia. It was a very sad, and it was a film I felt had been done, about the disease. But this we wanted to do was in homage to all the people we know who suffer with this thing and keep going and keep finding ways to engage, to struggle, to be who you are in the face of something that is taking away your identity from you.
It's a profoundly beautiful film and a very truthful film. And I'm one of those people that's had an experience of it in my life as well. Elderly people around me have gone down that path, and you capture it with a unique perspective and a very beautiful one. So thank you for that, Michael Cristofer. Before we go, just quickly, I am going to ask you to indulge me a brief moment of recollection. You mentioned it earlier in the interview. if I could turn this camera around, you'd see my framed poster of The Witches of Eastwick. It's never out of my top 10 favorite films. It was your second screenplay. Yes, it was a notoriously troubled production in part. In hindsight, with age and wisdom, can you please reflect on what that film meant for you?
Well, it was huge. It was absolutely huge. I had done one other film, and that was with De Niro and Streep. So
yeah, Falling in Love, a beautiful film.
That was my first, and then this came along, and I have to say, it was George Miller who was, I don't know, he was in his own strange and bizarre and funny way. He was and probably still is a great teacher, just by virtue of how he approached things. And maybe he came from down under, I don't know, but his whole demeanor on set and in prep for the film, everything, it was so full of a kind of fresh energy that nobody I knew, and I was still young in the business, but nobody I knew in the business had that kind of energy, had that kind of sort of wild perspective and belief, and also sort of great faith in the people he was working with. It was a totally refreshing, and I think that's why we got into so much trouble later on with the studio and everything else, because he was so unique. I mean, he was so completely unique, and I guess it was his first American film. It must have been.
I think he came to that after the Twilight Zone episode, but yeah, I think it was his first.
Oh, that's
feature.
Right. Yeah, the Twilight Zone. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it was a wonderful, completely mad experience. But
you're not the first to say that about a George Miller film. That's for sure.
Yeah. but the actors are wonderful. Jack Nicholson, one of the great actors of all time, probably. A dream to work with. I mean, that script, which was very verbal, it was word for word. There was no, he came in knowing that script word for word, and not just knowing it word for word, which of course any school kid can do, but then turning it into something that was so extraordinary. And also he had such a great love for the three women.
Yeah.
Some of it probably not legal, but most of it, but most of his affection for the women was really genuine, and he took such care of them. And because there were moments where the producers and mostly the producers really, who were treating them in the way that female actors have been treated and should not be treated. And it was literally Jack who defended them. It was Jack who came to their defense when they were asked to do ridiculous things or not. And then, of course, Susan Sarandon and I went to school together. So we had known each other for a long time. I
did not know that.
Yeah, we were in college together.
Oh,
yeah.
Lovely. You write beautifully for all actors, but you certainly have a very strong and unique perspective on a woman's voice, and the words you've put into so many great actresses' mouths is remarkable. So I know I'm getting the wind up. I could talk to you all night about all of your films. Thank you, Michael Cristofer. The Great Lillian Hall is in cinemas around Australia from May 29. Thank you so much for your time, sir. It's been an absolute joy talking to you.
Please, it's great to meet you finally. Thank you. Thank you very much.